Welcome and hello. My name is Chris Grolica. I'm the Associate Director of Career Development at RWU University School of Law. On behalf of myself, my office, and the admissions office, we welcome you to our annual alumni panel. We thank you for taking time to hear from our alums, and we hope that hearing their journeys, especially about their time at RWU and how RWU influenced their journeys, helps you see yourself here as well. I'd like to do a land and labor acknowledgement before we begin. I want to take a moment to reflect on the lands on which we reside. We are coming from many places, physically and remotely, and we want to acknowledge the ancestral homelands and traditional territories of Indigenous and Native peoples who have been here since time immemorial, and to recognize that we must continue to build solidarity and kinship with Native peoples across the Americas and across the globe. Roger Williams University School of Law is located here in Bristol, Rhode Island. And so we acknowledge and honor the Narragansett and Pokanoket people and Soams, the original name of the land that our campus resides on. We also acknowledge that this country would not exist if it wasn't for the free enslaved labor of Black people, and we recognize that the town of Bristol and the very land our campus resides on have benefited significantly from the trade of enslaved people from Africa. The economy of New England, Rhode Island, and more specifically Bristol, was built from wealth generated through the triangle trade of human lives. During this time of national reckoning, with our history of slavery and the disparate treatment of Black people, we honor the legacy of the African diaspora and the Black lives, knowledge, and skills stolen due to the violence and white supremacy. While the movement for justice and liberation is building and we are witnessing the power of the people, many are still being met with violence and even being killed. As upholders of justice, our hope is to become agents of change for members of our society who have been met with violence, physical, mental, and emotional, using our privilege as students and soon practitioners of law. I'd like to introduce our panel, and I'd like to start with Kelvin Santos.
Hello. My name is Kelvin Santos. I am a member of the class of 2020, fairly recently, and I practice immigration law at RWU Law and Associates here in Providence, Rhode Island.
Leticia?
Go ahead. Hi, everyone. My name is Leticia Pimentel, and I am an associate at Robinson & Cole, and I practice energy law. I graduated from Roger Williams in 2014, and I clerked for a few years and am now a 7th-year associate.
Hi, my name is John Stickney. I am from the class of 2012. I currently work for the Federal Public Defender's Office in the Northern District of Texas, Fort Worth office, and I've been here since 2018.
Hi, I'm Jackie Roleri. I graduated from the law school in 2011. I also participated in the joint degree program with the University of Rhode Island. So I have a master's degree in marine affairs, which I got through that program in 2012. And I work for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in their Office of General Counsel. And specifically, I'm the Deputy Section Chief for the Oceans and Coast Section within our Office of General Counsel.
Thank you all. I think I will start with Leticia. Would you like to talk about what it's like to practice in your legal space? And for you, obviously, the private practice.
Absolutely. So I work at a mid-sized firm. We're about 250 attorneys, primarily working out of the New England states, although we do have an office in Miami, and we've expanded to DC and Philly recently. My practice is in energy law, so I represent the state's distributor of natural gas and electricity. In Rhode Island, it is Rhode Island Energy for those who work here. Previously, it was National Grid. And I actually started at the firm as a 1L. The school has sort of a partnership with Robinson & Cole, and every year the law firm hires a 1L to join for the summer as a energy fellow, and I was that fellow many years ago, and now I'm back at the firm as an associate practicing again energy law. It's an area of the law that I wasn't familiar with before the internship, frankly, but it's very interesting. in the law firm that I work with, there's a variety of practice areas, just about every practice area you can think of from the private sector. So most of our clients are private companies, whether it's banks, airlines, utility companies, you name it. And we practice in a broad range of areas.
Awesome, thank you. John, would you like to share sort of what it's like to work in a federal public defender's office?
Sure. So I started in the Federal Public Defender's Office in the Western District of Texas, in Del Rio, which was a lot of felony immigration type offenses, which was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. But here in Fort Worth, we have an office of about 8 trial attorneys. We have 2 appellate attorneys, 2 investigators, paralegals, and our jobs are to represent indigent defendants accused of typically felony offenses that range from still doing immigration type felonies, gun cases, lots of drugs, things like that. So it's a lot of fun. The big difference between federal public defense and state public defense is our job is typically geared more towards storytelling for sentencing purposes, versus trying to negotiate plea deals, just for the nature of the kinds of cases that we get. We're really trying to get fair sentences. So it's a great job if you like storytelling and you like working with people from all different backgrounds.
Thank you. And I think kind of sort of the other side of some of the stuff that you did, Kelvin.
Yeah, so I practice immigration. We are a small firm. There are about, I think, 9 attorneys right now, and I believe all but 3 of us are Roger Williams law grads. So we're representing heavily. So we have a fairly large practice as far as clientele goes. We've got thousands of clients. The majority of our work is representing clients who are seeking asylum, individuals and families both. Generally from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, but we obviously work with a lot of other populations. That is where the bulk of our clients are from. And we recently took on pro bono a great deal of clients who fled Afghanistan when the Taliban took over and came over with our troops. And I actually just got home a few minutes ago from an asylum interview over in Boston with one of these clients. And these are people who were fighting with and for us, translators, et cetera, interpreters. So there is never a dull day. We are, I'm proud to say, fairly successful. We're good at what we do. We're great at what we do, actually. And we thrive and take pride in making a material difference in people's lives. It's not, it's not a corporate gig. I have worked with Robinson and Cole. I did do the summer fellowship that Leticia mentioned. I highly enjoy that, and I love everybody at that firm. But being an immigrant, it's just something I'm passionate about, and I love my job. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Kelvin. Jackie, what is it like to work in the federal government?
Sure, and I have to say that, Kelvin, your job does sound very fascinating. So yeah, I work, like I said, I'm within the Office of General Counsel for a federal agency, NOAA. And, one thing the agency has, gosh, I don't even know these days. I think we have at least 10,000 people, but I think that's an old number. So it's a big agency, and we're located within the Department of Commerce. And one thing I really love about my work is it's very diverse. So within NOAA has a very, I would say, very diverse and widespread range of work that the agency does. It's a science-based mission, and we do everything from, weather and satellites to fisheries management, ocean and coastal management, et cetera. And so the part of the actually 2 parts of the agency that my office works most closely with is the National Ocean Service and NOAA's Office of Marine and Aviation Operations, which they're the folks who operate our ships and our aircraft. And so one thing I really enjoy is just the people in the agency are really passionate typically, about the work that we do and in public service. And I think, it makes my job easy working with people like that on really interesting topics, which, range from dealing with national marine sanctuaries, which are, protected areas in the water, to states with coastal management programs like Rhode Island, to doing regulatory work and litigation occasionally with the Department of Justice. So it's a lot of really interesting work that I feel good about, and also lots of opportunities, I would say, to coordinate across the government and work with people outside the agency as well.
Great, thank you so much. So next question, what during your time at Roger Williams University School of Law, what directly impacted your work that you do now in a really positive way that you did? May it be a class, a clinic, student groups, anything like that. I think I will start with John on this one.
Sure. One of the things that I did that I think was really a great experience was the immigration clinic. I don't do immigration law like Kelvin does, but I deal with a lot of crossover and a lot of things that are immigration law adjacent. But it was really a good way to get hands-on client experience that I think you can translate to any any work where you're dealing with clients, especially indigent clients who you meet at their very worst and scariest times for them. So the immigration clinic I did, it was invaluable. I loved it. Truthfully, I was trying to think of the groups that I was a member of. I can't think of any group except for the Runners for Justice, which was a group of people who ran because law school can be very stressful and you have to have some activities outside of the law school. So I think that might have been the only group that I was actively involved in, but I think if I could do it again, I would join a few others that are more criminal law appropriate.
Fun fact, kids, John and I used to be roommates. I completely forgot about the Runners for Justice. That was like I think he had shirts and everything. Yeah. There's not any zombies involved. I'm not running. So Jackie, do you mind going next?
Sure. So I was probably on the other end of the spectrum and like got engaged, in all the extracurricular things. But let's see, I think some of the ones that really I found sort of connect to what I do currently. One was the Sea Grant Legal Fellowship, which is an awesome program. Basically, it's an opportunity for students at the law school to work on real life issues and that people in the community need answers to related to, the ocean and coastal environment. So it's a paid position, which is a bonus, as a law student. So that was a really great opportunity. And then I was active in the Environmental Law Society and the Maritime Law Society. I also participated in law review, which I think, if you can get involved in law review or moot court, those are always things that employers look favorably on. I also did a judicial externship during my third year of law school with Judge Procaccini from in the Superior Court in Rhode Island. And I had him actually as a professor in trial advocacy. So it was fun to kind of sit in the courtroom and observe, what happened on sort of a day-to-day basis for him. And let's see what else. I was a research assistant for a professor who taught environmental law and administrative law. So that was actually a really nice opportunity just to kind of look behind the scenes at what your professors do to kind of get prepared for the day and spruce up on those areas of law. And then the last thing I'll mention is I also got involved through the school's Marine Affairs Institute with helping them, I think it's typically every other year, the school holds a pretty well-known marine symposium and on different topics. I know they have one coming up in about another month or so. And that's a great opportunity to just network with people in the field who come to the law school to hear from, different experts on whatever the topic may be. So that's always fun to participate in as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jackie. Yes. Leticia?
So I thought I did a lot in law school, but I think Jackie might, I lost count there. I think she might have done more. So because I worked pretty much full-time in undergrad, when I went to law school, I definitely went in saying I'm going to give 100% of my time, my energy into the school, into different activities, because I knew it was an investment into a career that I was going to be entering as somebody who's like first generation, who didn't know attorneys in Rhode Island and was trying to really start from scratch. I wanted to just like give it my all. So I also did law review, moot court. So there's different, organizations you can get involved in. I was vice president of MCLSA, which is like the Multicultural Law Student Association. The most direct, I would say everything I did at the school in some way had a positive influence in the career that I have now. The most direct being this, the 1L internship that I discussed, that the stars aligned, that 8 years later, when I was happy to be looking for a job, they were hiring in the Providence office. And that was really just a combination of luck and opportunities that the school gave. And I also did a judicial externship and got to work with the judge. And from that judicial externship, whereas essentially you draft memos and you work closely with the judge and the law clerks. And I got to see what a law clerk did for a living. And I thought it was great. And I ended up, when I graduated, clerking for 4 years. So I think every aspect of, what I did in school translated in some way. I also did the criminal defense clinic. I went to law school with a pretty open mind and interested in different areas of the law. And I knew I wanted to be like in court, I thought, or some kind of like before some kind of body. Now I'm before the Public Utilities Commission, which, in the energy world, it's the judges of my world, not necessarily the typical, judge court setup that, we see on TV. But I knew I wanted to be sort of have that kind of practice. So I did the criminal defense clinic. And, believe it or not, a lot of things I learned in the clinic, it correlates, whether it's preparing a witness to testify. I have a hearing just like once a month, probably sometimes twice. I have hearings before the PUC, and I prepare my witnesses to testify. So there are a lot of skills that I acquired, whether it's through different organizations at the school or programs, activities that definitely impact what I do today. Excuse me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Last but not least, Calvin.
Yeah, so I guess the most direct thing is that I also participated, like John, in the immigration clinic, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The clinic director, Deb Johnson, she is amazing, incredibly knowledgeable. Sadly, we the culmination of our clinic was in the spring of 2020. So I was deprived of my opportunity to actually go into immigration court before graduating. But prior to that, I also did take the immigration law class, and as well as the international law class, which was definitely one of my favorite courses that I took in law school, because, a lot of asylum law and immigration law is heavily rooted in international law, treaties, etc. So, it's nice to get a basis for, or like a fundamental basis for the work that you're doing. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I participated in extracurriculars as well. I was SBA president, lucky enough to get elected for that my third year. And I also was in the Black Law Students Association, and like Leticia, in the Multicultural Student Association. And I did a little bit of work with the Family Law Association. But I do think that, regardless of which field it is that you're looking to go into, it is important to stay very open-minded, because some people come into law school or go into law school with a fairly firm idea of what they want to do. And I've seen plenty of people who exit happily doing something completely different. And there are certain things you can do that might align with certain interests you have. As I mentioned before, for one summer, I worked at Robinson & Cole doing the National Grid Summer Fellowship. In my second year, I had a nice opportunity to work with a firm that did education, special education law. And being somebody with a background prior to law school of working with special needs children and children with autism, group home kids, etc. It was just nice to expand my base of knowledge in a legal sense, and particularly when those things directly correlate with things that I have experience in and have a passion in. So while I didn't necessarily follow any of those other paths and landed in immigration, I'm very glad that I had those other opportunities, because they not necessarily ruled out other things that I didn't want to do, but it helped me keep an open mind, and who knows what I may want to do in the future. It helped keep open doors as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a really good point to point out that, you may not know what you want to do when you get to law school, or you may know exactly what you want to do, but it's okay to try out new things and to check out stuff. Your 3 years in law school are a real safe space to really try out who is the new lawyer version of you. And it's okay. And there's no one path for anybody. Everyone has their own path through law school.
Yeah. Can I piggyback on
Oh, yeah,
that?
of course.
Because I was that person who went to law school, not knowing really what being a lawyer consisted of. I knew I liked to research and write. I knew I wanted to continue my education. I changed my majors a lot in undergrad. I was a little bit I know I want to do this, but I don't actually know what it entails. And so I just want to echo that. And being, having classmates and friends who knew exactly what they wanted to do. And I always thought that's awesome if that's you, but if it's not you, it doesn't mean you're not going to find your space in the legal profession. And really a law degree it's empowering, and it just opens doors. It doesn't close any doors, regardless of what you want to do in the future. And I will say that I graduated also still not knowing what I wanted to do. And so I clerked for a few years, and then things aligned. Now I'm an energy attorney. So you also don't have to know right when you graduate. So you have time.
It's very true. And many of our students do become clerks after law school, which is a great opportunity as well.
If I could just mildly piggyback on that. One thing I learned quickly after attending law school, and I guess it's kind of intuitive when you think about it, but you don't really think about it before you're in law school, is that it doesn't really matter what your passions and interests are. There's a connection to the legal field. You can literally think about anything, whether it's books, there's intellectual property, it doesn't matter. Whatever your passion is, it could be a hobby, literally anything you can think of, there is a direct connection to the legal field and something you could pursue in that field. So even if you're coming in with literally no idea what it is you want to do, what you do know or what your passions and interests are, and that could certainly be a starting point.
It's a really good point. Yeah. And sometimes you just discover that there's a whole area of law that you didn't even know existed. And then that's the new thing, So John or Jackie, do you have you want to hop on that, or no? That's okay. So one thing Calvin did mention, a real quick kind of rapid fire question that I didn't prep you all for. What was your favorite class? So we already heard Calvin's. Just what was your favorite class while you were in law school?
My favorite was the human rights class. It was Professor Margulies. It was amazing. I felt like it humanized the law in a way that the earlier law classes, which are important and crucial and necessary, it really humanized it for me and made it kind of more of a passion than just the intellectual side.
So my first year, I really liked contracts. I don't know why, but I just really, that class just clicked, and I loved the professor. It was a great class. And then I would say my second year, I did I don't know if the school still offers, but it's a 6-week seminar, the U.S. Supreme Court. It's it tracks some of the cases that are pending before the court, and there's also at the end a trip to DC. So it was really awesome because it was my first time in DC, and I also got to sit in to listen to oral arguments on one of the cases that I had read the briefs on. So that was just a really awesome class and an experience.
And mine might not be a surprise, but my favorite was Ocean and Coastal Law. which, you know, was taught by Dennis Esposito, who I still periodically keep in touch with. I actually now serve on the advisory board for the school's Marine Affairs Institute, and Dennis and a number of other people, you know, who I knew from when I was a law student are on the board. And so we actually just had our meeting, you know, we only meet once in a while, but we had the meeting I think about a week ago, and it was really fun just to see him and, you know, see some other familiar faces.
Awesome. Nice. Very eclectic. I think we want to wrap up, but I do just another quick question. What was everyone's favorite part about living in Rhode Island while you were a law student? Because I know some of you are also transplants like myself. And so the thought of moving to a little roadie is part of the deal. So if anyone wants to go first.
I'll jump in real quick. I'm from Texas, and so you know, going from a huge state to a small state, one of the smallest states. No, Delaware. Anyway, it was an amazing experience. The food, the weather, half the year, experiencing fall, all of it. The people also, I think they're, at least for me, my experience was everyone was very warm, very inviting. It's a different kind of nice than in Texas. I think in Texas, everyone's very polite to your face because it's like an obligation. But in Rhode Island, when people are nice to you, it's because they genuinely want to be nice to you. And I felt the warmth, and it was just a great experience. I loved it. I wish I could get back there. But my family's here, so.
Yeah, I really love Rhode Island. I think I'm from Connecticut originally, so not too far. I like how it's a really small state, and I think one thing that's nice about you know, Roger Williams being the only law school in the state as well is once you start to get involved in things, you know, locally, you realize what a small state it is, especially in the legal field. And so it's nice because I feel like you're able to, I don't know if I would say more easily, but you're able to pretty easily make connections with people that might not, you might not have that same opportunity if you're in a bigger state, I would think. And like one example I didn't give earlier, but when I helped at that Marine Symposium I mentioned, Senator Whitehouse was a speaker at it, and I met one of his staff there and then followed up with them to see if I could, you know, apply for an internship with his office. And then I ended up getting, you know, I was selected for the internship and had that great opportunity, which, you know, a pretty unique opportunity. And that was also one of the highlights, I would say, for me during law school, is having that as one of my summer internship opportunities.
So I'm also not far. I live in Massachusetts, so Rhode Island's just right over, you know, 20 minutes away. But I love Rhode Island now. I practice in Providence, and I just absolutely fell in love with the campus. And it's just so beautiful just being in front of the ocean. And I think the fact that the law school is in Bristol is perfect because it's beautiful, it's picturesque, but it's also quiet and there's not that much distraction. But if you want distraction, you can just drive like not that far and get anywhere. So you can get downtown. There are amazing restaurants in Bristol. There's like everything that you can get to, but if you also just want like quiet so you can focus in, you know, on school, you can get that. And so I feel like Bristol, that community is like perfect for that. And I will just add also that not only is the campus great, but I feel like the people, I agree. And one of the highlights of my law school experience, which I guess I didn't mention, was like the friendships that I made, whether it was through different organizations, whether they were classmates or, you know, MCLSA, and those friends today are like my best friends, and we stay in touch, and some are still practicing in Rhode Island. So, you know, I feel like we have such like a big network, and even those that aren't in Rhode Island, we're still stay connected. So I think I really enjoy the community aspect of the school. Oh, and the last thing is that there are a lot of benefits, as Jackie said, about being the only law school in the state. And one of the examples I can think of is the close proximity or relationship that the school has with the bench, meaning the judges of the state. And the school is uniquely positioned to offer a lot of internships with different judges in the state. that is, I can guarantee, is unique to Rhode Island. Just because I interned with people from Boston, and like I would just describe how the school works with the judges and all of this, and they were like, that does not happen in Massachusetts. It is very unique, and I think it, like, the students should take advantage of that, and I know I did in many ways. So that's it.
And I guess I'm a little biased here. I mean, I mentioned before that I'm an immigrant. I was born in Cape Verde Islands, raised in Boston until about the year 2000. Well, not about till 2001, but I've been in Rhode Island since. So I'm essentially a Rhode Islander at this point. But I was, fairly familiar with the area, not as much with Bristol, and Bristol was awesome to get more familiar with. But in speaking about Bristol, you've also got Newport right down the street, essentially. And then you've got Providence. So there are different opportunities depending on what kind of social scenes you like, because I will say it is important. I'm not saying to go out and party. What I'm saying is that it is important to not treat law school like the end all be all, because it can actually be detrimental to forget that you need to have a life, enjoy yourself, read books, go out with friends, kite surf, whatever it is that you do. And as John mentioned, this is not something that I've had the luxury of seeing for the first time, but people do enjoy the foliage and experiencing a Rhode Island fall for the first time. I wish I could kind of go back in time and kind of get that experience. But to go back to what a few people have mentioned, I think Rog Williams Law is uniquely positioned as far as the relationship with the bench. I mean, I can provide two simple examples. One, I was able to join a pizza party that Dean Logan threw with Judge McConnell, who's a federal Rhode Island District Court judge. And when I was on SBA, when I was president, I had the opportunity to serve on the Dean Search Committee, where I was with another federal District Court judge. And just the amount of times you just come across these individuals that, might seem aloof or distant because of the fact that they are judges, they are busy people, they are important figures in the community. You wouldn't expect to for it to just be sort of commonplace, have opportunities to cross paths, shake hands, get a business card, create opportunities, etc. And it's just I think it's unmatched realistically with what any other school might be able to provide, just given the location, the demographics, and the size of the school, and us being a small state and the only law school in the state.
Thank you all so much. I know we all have to run, but if there was any other final thoughts somebody wanted to pop in, otherwise, thank you all so much for doing this. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure our hopefully future Roger Williams students do as well. So thank you so much.